Afternoon, everybody, and warm out there. But just what you want this time of year. Well, you're kind of finding out who you're going to be, and we're still in that process. Obviously, last year as you go through the camp and you go through year one, you kind of start to define yourself a little bit, and we're in that process for year two. It's going to take a minute. It's not immediate, and we're nowhere near where we want to be. I am pleased with the effort that we've gotten to start out camp. We're not that deep into it to draw any conclusions, and I know you're probably going to want to know about this, that, and the other thing. We're not at the conclusion point yet in any way, shape, or form. We've got the rest of this week and a big week coming up next week until we're 2 weeks out, and those decisions will get made eventually. I think we've got the depth necessary to compete at several positions that we got to kind of let it sort out a little bit and see where it's at. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But overall, I'm really pleased with the effort. I think they want to be really good. I'm not sure all the time we understand what it takes to do that. We're still working on that. We're still fighting through certain situations and certain things that we're going to have to get, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally stronger as we come together and kind of define throughout the rest of camp exactly what the 2023 version of LSU offensive football is going to look like. But I think I'm encouraged by what I see, and I'm excited by what I see. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
It seemed like Malik Neighbors was all over the place today. How have you seen him grow from when you first saw him last year to now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy that, Malik, I have a lot of respect for on a number of different levels, but mostly because he comes to better his craft every single day. There's not a time where he doesn't have his complete attention on getting better at what he does on the practice field. And people like that, you just naturally kind of, move towards. I mean, he is somebody that is a good example for, especially the younger players in our program, to watch, to emulate on how to show up every day, how to put yourself in a position where you can improve at the skills necessary, and really look forward to continuing to develop Malik as Malik develops Malik, because that's his mindset. And helping those other guys come along as well.
In what demonstrable ways have you seen Jake progress? His comfort level, the things he's able to do on the field physically?
Yeah, I just think year two allows him a comfort level from a knowledge standpoint, from a knowledge of not only offense but knowledge of personnel standpoint, where he feels like he can let it rip a little bit more. And we continue to encourage him to do that more and more and more, and I think he's taken upon himself as much as anything to play that way and be aggressive and make sure that he's given opportunities where they're needed and being smart with the football at the same time, but also understanding that we've got some pretty dynamic people around him that need to have their hands on the football, and he's done a really good job of continuing to develop where that's concerned.
Has that dialogue with you changed at all?
I don't know that it's changed as far as, I think what it is it's like anything else, right? The more familiar you are with one another, sometimes the less that needs to be said, and maybe it's a look, maybe it's a thumbs up instead of, hey, what the heck, this, that, or the other thing. So it's been a positive thing for sure.
I think I know you also work with the tight ends. You got a lot of talent in that group, a lot of young guys. Can you kind of walk us through what you've seen from that group, maybe some individual standouts in the first week?
Yeah, Mason obviously had a solid year for us a year ago, looking to build on that. Love where he's at from a physical development standpoint, and think the completeness of Mason Taylor's game is really going to come through this year that you guys are going to see. I don't know that I would call him a killer as a blocker a year ago. However, he learned how to survive and did a nice job and continued to develop as the year went along. I think when you move from there, obviously we brought in a junior college transfer, Connor Galbraith, who is more of a big body inline tight end who I think has experience in his knowledge of what we're doing comes along from a physical standpoint. He's certainly there, but he's swimming a little bit mentally, but I like what I've seen from him from an aggression standpoint. The younger guys, you know, Jackson Magone, unbelievable route runner, understanding of the passing game, how to create space for himself, how to break down people in man coverage, is somebody that can definitely help us in the passing game. Now, he's got to continue to work on his weight. He's like 230 pounds. I don't know that I want him blocking many defensive ends. So he's still coming along. I think Mac Markway in particular has had the best camp so far as moving himself in a position to contribute to the team. Through a physicality standpoint, I think he's moving better in space. So there's some things that he can also give us in the passing game, which is welcome. And then, you know, KP Kempton is an unbelievable physical talent and a raw piece of clay that any tight end coach in America would love to have to work with. And he's got the ability at already gaining probably 15 pounds since he's been here, getting to 245 as a true freshman. You know, an opportunity to help in both areas of what we ask our tight ends to do, provided he continues to develop, and I believe he will. So there's some blessings aplenty in that room. We got to figure out who fits best and where, and how to really utilize those guys the best way. But it's exciting, and it's been a little bit of a journey, kind of getting that room where we thought it could really contribute to the way that I believe it will this season.
Coach, with the veterans you've got on offense and the numerous guys you've got at each skill position, are you seeing where there's things you can do offensively that you couldn't do last year? Are you seeing the possibilities?
I definitely am, and I think they do too. And I think, you know, year two in a system, obviously, you know, they're not just worried about necessarily what their assignment is on a particular play call. You know, we're past that, and we started to get past that probably 5 or 6 days into spring ball, and they carried that into the summer, where there's a more understanding offense as a whole in what we're trying to accomplish, not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it, and you know, that how their job interacts with the job of the guy next to them, and the details in particular. My Lord, the details. You watch last year's tape of us, and we're out there in survival mode offensively, and now we're deeper into the details, and we understand defensive looks better, and what causes us issues, what doesn't, how to adjust it. All those things get better with time, good Lord willing. And with the veteran guys that we have, that's been the case so far, where their recognition level, their understanding of the details of their position in particular has gotten better and better and better. And what that hopefully leads to down the road is the ability to move those guys into different positions and let them go, and cause some angst on the defensive coordinator's part.
Michael Alexander from the Advocate. We talked with you in the spring about how y'all wanted to create more explosiveness in different ways. Where do you think y'all made progress or continue to make progress that you'd like to in that spot? And just what is continuing to go into being more explosive? Is it as simple as I don't know, like different routes, or is there one of those?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think first off, you know, I thought we caught a lot of footballs with our backs turned to where we were trying to score last year, if that makes sense. So we ran a lot of stops and comebacks and different things like that. We're good at it. So it's easy to call as the play caller the things that you're obviously good at. And we did some things in some of our other concepts, passing game wise, where there wasn't as many, I didn't think, catch and run opportunities, which really can contribute to your explosiveness and how much more explosive you can be. So we've tried to correct that from a scheme standpoint. Not that we're not going to throw stop routes into the boundary and things like that, because we got guys that can do those jobs and they're really effective things. But I think what we looked at was trying to create more catch and run opportunities for the great athletes that we have, and allow those guys to be what they are, which is, with the ball in their hands, pretty dangerous football players. So I've seen some real positive progress where that's concerned. I like a lot of the things that we're doing where we're just subtle tweaks to what we were doing scheme-wise a year ago to allow those guys with proper ball placement to have a few more catch and run opportunities, and it's led to more explosiveness.
Coach, I guess you just talked about it to an extent, but their overall confidence now that you know who the offensive line is as opposed to a summer ago, you know who the quarterback is, and they're a second year in the playbook, just the overall productivity and confidence they have in this month leading up to that first game.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think about going into the Florida State game a year ago, and boy, there were a lot of unknowns. And, you know, I don't know how well they knew us, and I don't know how well we knew them. And it's just a whole different feeling and vibe around the growth that we made during the season, allowing those guys to have a little bit more of a head start into what we can possibly become if we continue to work really hard at it as fall camp goes along and as the season goes along, because that's really what we're all driving for is you know, where you are in week 1 and where you are in week 12, 13, and in the bowl game should look different, should be different if you're doing a good job, and as players and coaches in particular. So I think we saw that last year. I think they gained confidence because of that. And we started about 3 rungs up or more from where we ever were last year when we got together in the spring, and I think that continues. So they believe in each other, and you know, we believe in them. So it's got some excitement surrounding it for sure.
Coach, on your right, Matthew Brewer with L3. Just how do you feel about the depth of your offensive line right now, especially a guy like Zalen's hurt coming in, the way he's been able to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a work in progress, as it always is along the offensive line, especially when you have some true freshmen who are kind of dipping their toe in the 2 deep. That's going to be a minute, and as much as anything, you know, have we seen things from each one of them that are really kind of catch your eye and go, boy, that's awesome. He's got a chance. There has been, and from all of those younger kids across the front, you know. I think Mason Lunsford has made some good contributions and will provide some depth inside as well. So I like the additions to the room, whether those are true freshmen or Mason in particular, who will add, I think, some depth to the position. I think it's going to be a minute before we get to the point where we kind of solidify who's going to exactly be where. But there's a lot of really good material to work with there, and I know Coach Davis is excited about it.
Okay. You talked briefly about being able to move the veteran guys around in the offense. I talked to John Trey Kirkland a couple days ago, the guy that was going out as you were coming in. He said one of the biggest things that helped him move to quarterback for that bowl game was being a guy who studied the entire concept instead of just his position.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that this coaching staff mandates, or is it on the guys to kind of take it upon themselves?
Well, it's really how we teach it. So we teach our entire offense, especially on the perimeter conceptually, if you will. So if we're running a 3-by-1 wide receiver route, you know, player 1 to the field on this concept has this, player 2 has this, player 3 has this. And I think if you teach it that way, it allows you to sometimes put who normally would be number 2 out at number 1 and he knows what to do, or number 2 at number 3, and flip guys around and put them in different spots to give the defense some different looks and kind of hide splits, hide formations, do some different things along those lines. So if they understand the concept of what you're doing, the parts become interchangeable, and you really have 5 skill guys on the field and 11 personnel at a time that you can kind of mad scientist and flip around wherever you feel like you can take advantage of the defense. And the more depth their knowledge is in understanding the concepts, regardless of position, the more versatility you can have. So that's a good thing.
Hey Coach, Glenn Wesco, 247. We were talking with Coach Kelly last week, and he was really excited about the opportunities to move Aaron Anderson around the offense. Just getting back to the explosive bit, I mean, just how does he fit in? Because it's really easy to notice how quick his change of direction is and just how explosive he can be.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that has to touch the football. And, you know, on me and the rest of the offensive coaches to make sure we're creative enough that we're using the skills that he brings to the table the right way. And he's obviously in the screen game, he's a very valuable piece. Touching the ball and running the ball on jet sweeps and things like that, sure, that's part of it. I think him also having a really good, I think more than just, sometimes you kind of look at like an Aaron Anderson and someone who's got his ability to start and stop and run fast as maybe a one-trick type of player but Aaron's unbelievably blessed with ball skills, and he can break people down in space. So we've got to get him into those scenarios as much as we possibly can and allow him to do what he's best at.
Thinking back to the Cincinnati days, you had an offense where you were able to run like Joshua Wiley at H-back, running it out, and then Leonard Taylor running at post in the end zone. That seems to be a bit more like the tight end room you have this year. What does having those kind of versatile players at tight end specifically open up in the offense for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it adds to our versatility as an offensive unit, and we can be in 4 wide receivers and put a lot of speed on the field. We can be in 11 personnel with 3 good speed receivers and a tight end who can attach and be physical or get out in space and run routes. We can put 2 tight ends on the field and spread you out if you want to play big, heavy personnel, or tighten you up if you want to play smaller players and have that type of versatility that we didn't have a year ago to do some more of those things that we'd like to do.
Coach has time for 2 more.
Coach, some of the local talent from Baton Rouge specifically, what have you seen from Chris Holden and from Sheldon Sampson?
Yeah, I love the direction that Chris is going in. He's really, I think, as much as anybody, begin to kind of stake his claim to some playing time. He's been backing up Malik into the boundary most of it, but I think, he's a really smart player. We can move him around if we need to. He's going to play for us, and his consistency has got to continue to get worked on, but he's done so much better than at any other point, and I'm excited about where he's going. Sheldon Sampson is gifted as any wide receiver we've got on the roster. He's swimming in the deep end right now, like a lot of the younger kids are, but when he knows what to do, and he is incredible athleticism, great catch radius, can run a lot better than people give him credit for, and I'm hoping that that's just going to add to what we are if he can continue to come along.
You have a lot of running backs. How does that open things up for you?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how does that open up scheme-wise for this offense, and what kind of opportunities do you have this year?
Yeah, I mean, and part of that is, I'm going to answer that maybe a little bit different, but it's exciting that there are so many running backs that could step in and play. Does that allow you to do a little bit more of a 2-back system? Okay, if those guys separate themselves as the most athletic guys, and they got to touch the ball, why not? The competition in the tight end room, do they make it so they force you to play a little more 12 personnel because they've earned it and they've made plays, or is it 4 wide receivers and tight end's got to sit this one out because the wide receivers are just making way, you know what I mean? I think what it allows us as much as anything is, going back to the versatility question, a lot of different options that we can explore, not only early in the season, but as the season goes along, and God forbid this guy gets banged or that guy gets banged, we have the athleticism and depth necessary to be able to be versatile in what we do. But as far as the competition that's going on in there, it's a day-to-day deal, and it's kind of been a little bit, which is good and bad. It's good because we're only just starting camp. That one day one of them looks really good, and the next day the next guy really looks good, and it's kind of like been a little bit of a back and forth, and that's one of the positions that I was kind of alluding to in my opening statement about some of this is going to take a few minutes to sort out. But the more those guys understand what we're doing, the more they can contribute, and maybe being more than just a running back if that's necessary. splitting them out and putting them out in space and doing some different, the more that they can learn and adjust and know those things, the more versatile it's gonna make us and the better it's gonna make us. So, because there's depth in there and it's quality depth.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you guys, appreciate you.